I am doing absolutely good.
Hold on a second. We're just gonna chat like we're doing good. We're doing good.
Hey guys, we have a technical issue, so just bear with us for one moment here. We're gonna get one of our scenes set up, but this is always.
Are we still alive?
Oh, you guys are still alive. You guys are still
Excellent.
doing good. We're just gonna get one thing switched up here.
Marty, we're having. Isn't that ironic that we're having technical issues on a Coffee Tech Talk show? That's like a classic
right.
way to start, right?
You guys are good to go. All right, the classic way to start. We had Marty, or we had Hylan's camera and Marty's camera. So, but we are good to go now.
Hey, I'm better looking than him, so
let me just double check one thing. Yep. Oh, I gotta switch one more thing here, guys. Look at this. You guys get to see live what we're doing behind the scenes.
This maybe we should call Marty. We should probably call this into a show that talks about like technical issues on a podcast, so we can have them ask about technical issues of this show. So,
all right, we'll leave Marty there. Wow, look at this. Professional stream quality right here, guys.
And when I said not, to kind of shake it up a bit today with the screens, I wasn't. This is exactly what I got.
This John, is exactly what I get. When you throw me a curveball like that, John, what do you expect to happen?
Put it in a shaker.
And we revealed our guests. You guys are good to go. All right, officially good to go. All right.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty excellent. That was a great start. I feel like we have a lot of technical issues today to really work out on this show, and we're gonna start from like square one right now.
Now hang on, you didn't buy or sell anything this week? What's the deal?
I did almost sold my 3-part sink today. A guy called me off of Craigslist. He's like, I want your 3-part sink. I'm like, okay, great. I'll go home over lunch hour and kind of swing by. He's like, I'll give you 200 for it. I'm like, I just dropped it from 600 down to 4, and he wants to give me 2. And I'm, I like to haggle, but I'm like, nah, my lowest is 4, 25. And next week it'll be 400, because last week it was 500. Week before that was 550. So it's like every week it just kind of drops in price. But he's like talking. I was like, come back in December, and it might be 200.
December, yeah.
But I did not sell that, and I did inherit an older machine. We're going to talk about that in just a bit.
Is that Astoria you had pictures of last week?
That's right, and we'll have that for you. So yeah, if you haven't noticed, Marty, I don't know, like you're probably not watching the live thing, but I changed my title to the Specialty Coffee Association United States Chapter North Central Regional Coordinator, and it was so long that we had to edit out the North Central. But I just want to clarify that I am the North Central Coordinator, and I am actively involved with trying to engage the coffee community and to talk about topics like coffee technology and technicians and different types of guilds and all this stuff. So this week, I still work at the Arbor Day Foundation as the coffee specialist, but this week I decided to use a different title. Next week I'll use another one. But that's all the kind of stuff that we're doing. Marty, can you introduce yourself real quick? You see,
Marty Rowe out of Kansas City, owner operator of Workbench Coffee Labs training facility and Service Call, which is a service company we've been running for since 2003. Installs, repairs, troubleshooting, you name it. If coffee touches it, so do we.
And we're talking about like all that stuff behind you tonight. I think I'm gonna mention some things about what this AST is and what the SCA is and what all these abbreviations of
absolutely.
And we have a pretty special guest tonight. I hear he's kind of he might know something about the Coffee Tech Guild. So I thought, well, we should probably reach out to him. Actually, you told me to. You're like, and then Mancy, and then everybody's like, you got to get Hylan on. So I'm like, awesome, let's do it. So Hylan is Hylan Joseph for the Coffee Technicians Guild. He's the chair, and he's going to be joining us in about 10-15 minutes. And we're going to talk coffee guild tech stuff. So, and I think there's something that the two of you have in common. AST, right? Is that right?
AST. And
so we're gonna leave it there.
That's for a whole lot of different things.
Actually, yeah. a lot of stuff tech, AST, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Right. But we're gonna unravel that and open up that can of worms in a little bit. But that's the cliffhanger.
Excellent.
Stick around.
Stick around.
Stick around. So I got this troubleshooting with Marty slide like always, and like you said, that Astoria. This is the Gloria Astoria. It sounds really. It kind of rolls off the tongue, right? This is a nicer version than the one that I've got. I don't have the full photo of the one that I have because it's having a paint issue. It's got a. You saw it, right?
Yeah,
it's,
I
you know,
I did.
It's
not that bad. I mean, for its age, she's not a bad looking.
No, it's not bad. But like the one that I have doesn't have that the digital readout on the panel there. But this is a really bad grainy photo of a gauge that shows both the steam pressure and then the pump pressure. And we talked a little bit about last week. We were talking about, it's struggling to get water, right? And I thought, well, let's talk a little bit more about what I had this week. I plugged in this machine. Luckily, I had an L630, already installed in the machine, and I've got one in my kitchen because I like plugging in espresso machines in there and just tinkering with stuff while I cook dinner. It's like
every tech has one of those.
So yeah, like while I'm cooking, it's great. But this one, it's just something that happens a lot. So I thought I'd let you address this and kind of dive just a bit into it. So when I plugged it in, turned the water on, obviously you can tell this one, well, maybe not obviously, but this one has not heated up yet because the steam is still at 0. And I'm using a flow jet with it, but the flow jet was working fine. The power was engaging. The heating element was starting to heat up. But when I engaged the pump or pushed the brew button, it would just kind of like make this like really like sound that, and the dial on the bottom would not go past 6, right? So the pump pressure, I guess, or I'm going to try to not use terms. I'm just, the little thingy on the bottom was just kind of wiggling like this. It was like, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? But and then I recall things in the past, but could you explain to people what the first thing might be when it just, that gauge just,
well, the first thing you said, you got this machine, and I think somewhere along the line you said it had been sitting.
Yeah.
Anytime we get a machine in the shop that's been sitting, we are shocked and surprised if the pump runs, because the hardest thing you can do to a pump on those machines is let it set. So I'm
going
to
pump,
guess.
Right?
Yeah.
This is a pump. Yeah.
That is a pump on the left, the brass part.
And what's on the right?
That's the motor that drives the pump. And when you're ordering this, you have to be clear. I ordered 6 of the wrong items one time in that scenario.
Or this Astoria.
Or
for in general. For in general.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like I was thinking about this one, and the first thing I thought was like, I'd probably pull this out and see if it's seized. And sure enough, that little
the shaft.
That shaft
that your
that's
cursor's on.
Right. That was absolutely non-negotiable movement. Nothing. I couldn't crank it.
In other words, you put a wrench on that and you couldn't turn it. Is that right?
Well, I didn't put a wrench on it. My fingers are the wrench. I don't need a real. I mean, most. You're right. I did not put a wrench on it, but I could. I don't think if I did put a wrench on it, I guess I could do that right now. If you want to chat with Hylan.
There are some pumps that are good. You'll run into pumps that are good pumps that you can't turn by hand. But no, you're right on. If your gauge is only responding to your pump that you've got hooked to feeding the machine, and it's not changing when you actually engage what should be this pump, then there's something wrong with the pump. Was that humming?
It was just kind of struggling. It was just, because with the flow jet, it was trying to push water and it would not go above that 6. But we have another troubleshooting, and this is from a caller. I think we've got a caller coming in.
Sure.
I think her name is Maya. So Maya's going to join us here in a second. And she had a really interesting question about this device. And I think you might have seen a
Okay.
couple of these around, right?
We have. Now, I will tell you right up front, and I think a lot of techs will tell you this, there's not a lot of repairable components in those. And I will also say Akai, their tech support, their people are awesome. They are contactable, they'll respond and help you through whatever you need to do.
I think Maya's here. Maya,
Hey.
can you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hi, Maya.
perfect. Oh my gosh, how do we know each other? I swear I've seen you before. Let's see. I think it might be something like the Specialty Coffee Association United States chapter. And what's your title?
Yeah. So I'm a community coordinator for SCA US. And also, John, wanted to let you know that, so we had a call yesterday and my roaster was sitting behind me. And today he told me, oh, your group sounds so fun. You all seem great. So
Nice. Well,
congrats to you, John.
thank you. We have a special, thing that was going on with the scale. Can you tell Marty what was
Okay.
going on with the scale?
Sure.
Definitely. I actually have a setup where I can show Marty what's going on with the scale. So give me just a second. I'm going to stop my video and then turn it back on. Actually,
Oh.
you'll just look at the ceiling for a second.
Nice. And this is a tough one, Marty, because like you said, oh, check it out. Okay. So this is a live demonstration of what's going wrong with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's my scale. Let me just set this. I have the weight from the, so as you can see, I turn it on and it just is gradually changing. Basically, I dropped my scale over the weekend and this actually is not changing that much, but sometimes it'll go up to like 8 grams at most or down. And today what I did based on John's advice is I opened up the back here and realigned. Whoop, there I am dropping it again. You see
Now
the
you're
problem.
pulling my tricks.
So I realigned this panel so that none of the edges were touching. But another thing to know about the scale is if you can see the charging port here, it's probably out of focus, but this scale is about 5 years old and it's always kind of done this. So I opened up the back. Let me turn it off. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves while I'm doing this.
Well,
I'll just keep
I'm
pressing.
impressed.
I'm busy
I-
kind of drinking a beer right now, and I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm-
kind of, this is great. I'm like, we're gonna take this whole thing apart, but
No, and John steered you in the exact right position because, and from my perspective, one of two things has happened. You've either physically, hopefully, this is the issue, physically misaligned the supports that it rests on, so it transfers weight from the surface on top that's floating down to the load cell that's inside. You've damaged some of those supports or misaligned those so that it's not moving freely, if you will, or you've actually damaged load cell. So
that could be perhaps irreplaceable or just to do another adjustment, right? I think like one thing to maybe even do, I went to their website and they said like when a scale is gradually increasing or decreasing in weight on its own, it is experiencing drift. So I learned something there. That was great. So drift is the term that they use when the scale is not accurate. And that happens sometimes when you have like any production scale or anything. And
Sure.
it's like kind of bumping on something, or you might have something underneath that scale and you'll see that it's not just quite calibrating properly. The first thing is to make sure that casing, there's this plastic guard that goes over it that might kind of like pinch somewhere.
yeah, and that's keeping that floating surface from freely floating. Now, my scale, bathroom scale, I swear it drifts.
Mine
Every time I
drifts
get on
about
it,
mine drifts about 5 pounds every week. It's kind of weird,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just step off of it and I get really light. It's kind of neat. So I would say, you know,
So
any
Maya,
issues
what
like,
did you find?
yeah.
I'm sorry. I
What was that?
interrupted you, John. What, when you got that apart, what, did you find anything that was keeping that weighing surface or the top surface from moving freely?
Yeah, I mean, I think my concern, there are a couple of dents. You probably can't see it based on the video quality, but there are a couple of dents in the like outer edges here.
Sure.
When I looked at it earlier, it didn't look like there was anywhere that was touching, and I pressed down on the back a little bit and saw if it was like moving, but it really wasn't. But then I thought maybe because this piece has always like, this isn't supposed to do that, you know?
Correct.
But it's been like that for years. This is probably a 5-year-old scale.
Wow.
And I really need it. I don't want it to die.
Well, Marty, what do you suggest? I do have a helpline, although no one's there right now. But if you call, or if you type in help.acaia, I tried to not pronounce it because
So Maya, on those dents that you've got there, are they in far enough to keep the surface that floats on top to keep it from moving freely? Are they rubbing at all?
I don't think they are. There's one that I was a little concerned about, and I tried to see if I had a tool that I could maybe like push that. This is like not a good thing that I would not recommend people do, but I tried to see if I had a little tool that I could like hammer it back out a little bit, and I didn't. So good for us that I didn't, I guess.
Well, Maya, I think what we're going to have to do is hand this off to help at Akai. How do you Akaya. Oh my gosh, I should know that. They're like 5 years old now. Akaya.co. And they're like you said,
absolutely great.
They're great with tech support. So I think that we're gonna go ahead. We have another caller actually. So I think that we're gonna try to do this transition. Dietrich, are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Maya.
Thanks, Maya.
Maya, thank you so much for joining the show, and we'll get back to you. I'll talk to you next week. And maybe we can talk about this on our chapter.
Thanks for popping in, Maya. Sorry we couldn't like get it fixed over the phone, but sometimes
John's been very helpful over the last couple of days.
Oh my gosh,
thank you so much.
I just thought it was going to be an easy peasy sort of like, oh, just readjust this because it's on troubleshooting, but nothing is ever easy in the coffee tech world. And just ask Marty because he knows. So thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later. Okay. Now we've got Dean Beatles. You ready, Dietrich?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
And Hylan, you're welcome to join in too if you'd like.
All right. And we'll see if Dean is still there, and I'll ask him to mute. And let's see here.
Hey guys.
Dean, you're on. Are you there? We may have to let you go. Anybody know Dean Beatles?
Dean was chatting in
the
chat here. He said he's been a coffee tech in Austin for about 15 years with the Texas Coffee Techs.
Welcome to join in too if you'd like.
Oh my gosh, I hear Dietrich in the background. We got a little, but you're in Austin. This is great.
And I'll ask him. And hey guys.
Hey Dean, how you doing?
Hey,
are you doing? This is
are
great.
You there? We may have to let you go. Anybody know?
Oh, Dean, if you
hear
can mute the
myself.
stream, that'd be awesome. Yeah. If you mute the stream, all is good. That does happen. It's all good.
Oops. Let's see here. And then I got you on asked to unmute. So if you want to go ahead and try to unmute there again, Dean.
All right.
Hey, Marty, did you know I'm going to
Dean,
Austin?
go ahead and unmute yourself, and you should be.
You're going to Austin?
I am going to Austin.
Austin's got a really good growing coffee scene.
That is true.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Dean. Hey, are you from Austin?
I am. How are you guys doing tonight?
Great. I'm going to Austin on Friday.
Oh, really? Why are
I'm
you
going to be there. I'm going to go visit some friends, and I'll be there over the weekend. And then I think I'm going to go visit my friend Beth down there too, who's also like involved with the SCA.
Oh,
US.
Beth, I work for Beth.
Oh, well then there you go.
I work.
Well,
I work out of Texas Coffee Traders.
I'll stop by and say hi in a couple days.
Yeah, come in. That'd be great. Yeah.
I won't fix anything though because Marty won't be with me. So.
Oh, sure. Well, that's fine. I can fix some stuff if you need it.
Yeah, right. Maybe you could help me out with some stuff, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any questions, real quick, Dietrich is the he's the magic behind all the coordination of the IT tech stuff.
I was just interested in. I just was playing with the links and stuff and just checking it out and stuff.
Oh, awesome. Well,
yeah, this is awesome.
Well, how about this? How about you want to join us for this? And I'm going to have Marty try to identify what machine this is.
Sure.
And I don't know if can you see this slide? It says what machine is this?
Let's give Dean a shot before Marty chimes in. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. Let's do it.
What machine is this?
Oh man! Wow. Ooh, shoot.
I don't make it easy for Marty, and I don't. I try not to make it easy for Marty. But
Marty, do you know?
Yeah, I know.
You know what this is already?
Oh, no,
Gosh,
Marty,
are you serious?
Come on.
I'm going to like Keys Van Western or like I don't know, like a Slayer or something. I don't know.
Why did you think it? Why do you think that?
Well, because like I work on all like most major standard machines in Keys Van Western. I probably have like 2 of them in Austin, and then there's probably like 2 Slayers in Austin. So I don't get the, and customers that have those, I don't tend to get to tear them apart very much, other than just.
And so this part on that King West, what does it do?
This part?
Yeah.
This looks like it's something to do with the it would be for the brewing for the groups.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about. Okay, and then
there we go.
Yeah.
What is this?
That's part of it too.
Oh, go ahead, Marty.
Marty,
No, go right ahead. When everyone's done, I'll give you the synopsis.
Okay, cool.
I might know that one too.
That's just a standard piston machine group workings.
And that's in the same machine. It's the same machine. Marty,
Oh, really?
It might not be, but it's in the same same building.
Family.
It's the same class. I think that now's the time, because the next one might really give it away. Because the reason why I think it's going to give it away is because of the shape of this right here. I don't know if you can see that, but
yeah, where do I know this from?
Well, I think you've already said it.
I'm actually kind of surprised that it actually is a lever.
Yeah.
Keys Van Western has a lever machine.
But they call it something like what is it, Marty? Tell me what it is.
Well, you drive your car with your keys,
right? You got that part. But what idiot? I'm sorry. That's not it. I use that word just to like apply to the name of the version of the espresso machine that I fixed once, and I had a heck of a time getting out this that spring load.
Yeah, well, that's not necessarily to this particular machine. That lever and that large spring.
Okay. What are we talking about?
On that lever is
what's the model?
That's a Keys Van Western.
What model is it?
It's
what
a
year?
Mirage.
This
I
one?
don't know what year it is.
This Idrio Compresso. Idrio Compresso.
Yeah.
So you nailed it right away. Right away, you got it. You were there.
Yeah, I've been pretty intimate with a Keys or two.
He's been in the back room hugging them.
Yeah, we just have a couple. I have a customer that lives outside town that has a Sportster and a 5-pound roaster in his garage, and he's a private pilot, and he won't tell me who he flies, but it's my but it's I love going there because he gives me great coffee, and then I get to play with his Sportster, his Keith Van Western Sportster.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
It's a really cool experience.
And
so
before we move on as well, did you have a question for any of these guys? Anything that you want to throw at these dudes?
When am I going to get to see everybody again at one of the the guild meetings?
Right now. This is it right here.
It's awesome.
This is as close as it gets.
And then I'll see you on Saturday if you're around, man. Like seriously, I'd like to stop by and say hi.
Yeah,
and then maybe I could take some clips and put the video in next week, and then we'd be like, hey, hanging out, like, hey,
I was here. I just talked to that person about stuff, and
and he like nailed the espresso machine right off the bat. Either the first thing that came out of your mouth was key. What'd you say?
Keys. It's Keys Van Western.
Keys Van Western. And
hey, Dean.
Yeah.
Sorry, I might be able to help a little bit. We are actually looking at trying to do an event a month as a community-led event starting next year. We're working on what that's going to look like right now. So when we'll reach out to you
I
guys.
love it.
Yeah. So we're trying to set up one event and one company January through the end of the year. So once we kind of figure out what that looks like, we've got a template written up. We'll reach out to everybody, all of our partners, and let them know what's going on.
Hey,
So
and
there is-
Dean,
There is hope.
I
Hey,
know. It's so much fun.
hey, we'll check out with you and talk to you on Saturday.
Cool. Yeah. Come by.
Hopefully Beth will be
Thanks.
there too. Okay, bye.
Thanks for
Thanks,
stopping
Dan.
in, Dean.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
I will.
All
Hey,
right.
Marty.
Hey, and so we kind of brought Hylan in there, and I could tell by the way he was giggling back there that he knew what that machine was too.
Oh, hey, Hylan, guess
you
what?
Couldn't have,
Hey,
you couldn't have gotten it past him.
I know, and I worked on one of those when I was at Dogwood, and I thought it was just the fanciest machine. But then I saw this on their
Oh, yeah.
history of like the Del Rey Deluxe 1985. Would you imagine like working on this thing? I would love it. I was just like, this is the Art Deco. This is like the description was the second ever machine built when they were still at school. This time the machine actually functioned. The first one actually didn't function. It was just an art piece. But this one actually functioned. And the idea was to have a modern machine pop out of an old shape, or maybe the other way around, the old shape still was it protectively hugging the new. When supplying coffee at the end of the year exhibition, Keys received an offer not to be refused. So this was the first machine ever sold. And I would buy it. I would buy that in a second.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
maybe if it worked, but yeah, that's kind of cool. I don't know. Have you ever seen this one?
No, that's new to me.
Infuso di
Fuso.
Idrocompresso, 1989. Yeah.
Wow.
I have no history on that other than it was in 1989. I'm like, if I ever saw that in a coffee shop, I would probably not leave for a while. I would probably, like, each one of those legs are adjustable. There's 24 of them, I think. So, I mean, but I'll tell you, like, this Art Deco, I mean, just like, this makes me like, I just love this stuff. I mean, I know form and function. I mean, it's got to pull a good shot, but my gosh, like, talk about attractive. You don't need a tower here. You just need like a cockpit on an airplane.
Now, John, not to dangle anything out there and something I can't disclose, but I cannot disclose this right now. But I am working on one that is unique.
I've seen some of those. That's great.
It's
Is it a smoker also?
oh no, but it's a musical instrument. Espresso
Nice.
machine, and as it gets closer, it's kind of a consignment work for someone, and the guy doesn't know what it's going to ultimately end up being. But I'll kind of bring it out as.
So it's not
gets
a
closer.
smoker, and it's not a barbecue, because like I've seen you take some 4-group lineas and turn them into a
we've
barbecue.
got our four group barbecue grill.
And it has its own fire suppression system in it, which is steam ones, turn on and flush it out. Well, hey,
no,
I
but that'd be
got,
a great idea.
you know what? We haven't really introduced Hylan at all. So I think I'm
Let's do
gonna
that.
do one thing here. This AST thing, authorized SCA trainer. That's one thing that the both of you have, I believe, trainer or in common.
There's several AST people that are out there with AST certificates, but
Right.
there's only 2. And I believe Hylan, he's just about to finish up his portion of it, of his certification in the Technicians Guild, or the tech side of it, in that.
Well, so let's back up a bit
curriculum.
and talk about like what is the Specialty Coffee Association, and Hylan. First, let's introduce yourself. How are you? What's your name? I've already said it 20 times or whatever. You've already you're already kind of part of the family here.
Right.
But what's your role in the coffee world right now, according to the SCA, and also your background a little? Just a quick couple minutes.
I don't know as much about the SCA proper as I should, to be really honest with you, because the guild has always kind of run a little, you guys hear me okay? The guild has always kind of run
Perfect.
independently, but specialty coffee, I mean, it covers everything that we do. And it covers the entire industry, and it's been around for as long as I can remember. I mean, I've been a member since I was first a barista in '85. The guild, like the Roasters Guild and the Baristas Guild, is an extension of the specialty coffee industry, and it's to provide specific guilds for specific types of positions. So I do work with all three guilds. So as far as my background, the reason I was laughing at that machine is because the very first machine I worked on, and the very first machine that almost killed me, was an old Gaggia piston machine. Marty likes the story. So I looked at it like that was a beat what I thought, but it's not. The Gaggia old springs are like as big as Marty's head. I mean, putting a spring, and it's like it takes like 7
And those
guys.
are huge. Those
They're
are huge.
like the biggest guys you can find to push that in. So when the very first espresso machine I was working on was at this place called the Savoy Tivoli in San Francisco. And I was talking to somebody, and I may have been flirting a little bit, and I wasn't paying attention. And we all know how that works. You pull it down, you set the latch. When the latch pops, it pops up when the pressure is achieved. Well, my chin was right there, right under the latch. And apparently, when that latch pops, it breaks your jaw. But I cracked it, but there was like all of the blood in your body goes to your chin and comes out. So it was everywhere. So I know those machines well.
Yeah, so the Specialty Coffee Association recently was formed in a sense, because before it was the Specialty Coffee Association of America,
right?
And it was based in the United States, and there was some potential for international growth. And with that, the Specialty Coffee Association of Europe and other parts of the world, we all combined together and formed the SCA, which is what it is called today. But with that, the guilds also went international in a sense, where the Coffee Roasters Guild, Technicians Guild, and the Barista Guild are now housed internationally. Is that correct?
Right. We were the first. We were the first to adopt because we were founded right around the same time. So we just chose. Marty was actually on that board that made the decision. We decided to just merge right away. We were international from the get-go, and then I think Barista Guild and Roasters Guild were next.
So yeah, it's for those who are outside of the SCA world, they might just be like, "Oh my gosh, why don't they just talk about something else?" But we're gonna get back into that and then go into the how to learn more about coffee conversation. But I also would say that like I'm a big fan of the Daily Coffee News by Roast Magazine, because they publish some stuff that I write every once in a while about shade grown coffee, and I think Nick Brown is like one of the coolest people in the industry too. But they also seem to have picked up some of your stuff. And this is one of my favorite articles that I've read recently that you've published about service expectations from coffee technicians, and some of the common problems or issues that you might be having there. What drove you to write this article? First off, like the common customer complaints. And I think I nailed at least 5 of them as being the problem, like showing up with no parts or showing up with the wrong parts, right?
Part of it is, I don't know your background, but part of it is I come from being a barista. I mean, I tell anybody with an earshot, if I could retire behind a machine and just serve drinks, I actually would. Unfortunately, I have a mortgage. So a lot of this comes from one of the things that we're doing with the Coffee Technicians Guild is we do outreach to baristas and outreach to store managers, because we want to give them an idea of what it's like to move on. Because I mean, if you want to have a career in coffee, not everybody wants to be a roaster. Not everybody wants to go and be a store manager. So I really thought about this article and talked to friends. I was like, well, people need to know what it's like being a tech and what they have to deal with. And we've had a lot of Nick's had asked for a lot of articles like this. So we kind of authored it with Nick in mind for owners, because you want to create it's such a divisive relationship, the owner and the tech, that you want to create an idea of what the awareness is. Because the next one is the one in November will be the tech's biggest complaints. And that could be like a 30-page article.
Oh, excellent. So there's one coming out soon. All right.
Yeah, the customer expectations is a whole series. It's just like we've done a couple series. Yeah. So I went through and I know a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people, and it's like, what are you looking for? And it's like, as much as we get conversations about techs, as much as we get conversations about learning technology, one of the most common questions is, how do I run my operation? Because there's so many techs out there. No one has the knowledge that me and Marty have. And there's so many guys out there but there's so many guys out there that have a car, a van, and they're with single techs. And when we initially set this up, part of it was we want to be a support group for those guys. So a lot of these articles are stemmed from trying to support them.
Right. And that's why I titled this, if you can see this, it says troubleshooting with Hylan.
Oh,
Now,
God.
this is not necessarily nuts and bolts, but more like educational, like troubleshooting. How do you run your business better? How do you get more engaged with the wider community? How do you get in touch with Marty or the guild itself and all of the resources that are available? And what's the purpose behind, having a guild and why that's there? So I've got like another slide here. That kind of just, this is, you're not supposed to read this all, but I just grabbed this from the website saying community resources, events, and training. These are some of the things that, like, if you go to the coffeetechniciansguild.org, I think it is, or .com, you're going to be able to find all of this kind of information that's available. Like, so you have, building community here. You've got events that are, I guess, basically all virtual at this point. And then some resources.
Sort of.
And then some training. So what kind of events are going on now, actually, that are not virtual?
We're planning stuff right now.
Okay.
A lot of manufacturers have reached out to us about having events. Jim Bliss, who sits on our events committee, is working with the UNIC. What we're really looking for is, we wrote a template. We had an event in Richmond this year as a test event, which Virginia, Kat Foley from Homage Coffee hosted it. So we've created a draft template right now so that our members can go online and I want to have an event, fill out this form and we'll get you what you need and help you out, find you speakers and everything else. I mean, you have to consider, before the guild, there was no central place for techs to go, oh, well, I can go here for this information. So part of it was, when we created the guild, part of it was for that, of creating it, was trying to find, like, if I'm a tech, and Marty is going to relate, if I at the guild right now, if I go on Slack and say I need a schematic for an old Pavoni machine, and within an hour somebody from the guild will say I have it. Before the guild founded, before the guild was founded, if I needed a schematic for an old Pavoni machine, or I needed to hire, or I needed a suggestion for an accounting system, it was like herding kittens trying to get the information, and there was so much gatekeeping. It's like, you'd call another tech company, it's like, what are you using for your accounting software? It's like, well, are you going to start servicing in my neck of the woods? Like, no, I just need some help, man.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why I'd always just call Marty, because like Marty's like that the one guy, well, still to this day, that, well, not the one, but there's several great folks out there. Marty's opened up enough to be kind to me, like what you're talking about, to share information and to be that resource, like it says on this slide, resources.
Well, once, John, on that, this is something I was surprised about a little bit, is that once we developed the guild, I discovered a whole world of people that were willing to share knowledge, and some great techs. There's some great techs splattered out there across the country. They're there, and we didn't know about them. We didn't know each other, and we didn't know how to pull from those resources until the guild was developed.
And so I came across this blog on the Coffee Technicians Guild website, and I was starting to read through it, thinking like, this is like a gold mine for me, because I can do, like, next week we're going to talk about static. Next week we're going to talk about nitro coffee. Next week we're going to talk about the top 5 brewer service issues. And of course, my favorite new term of the year, I got short potted. I feel like I completely got short potted on this deal. And this goes back to that second, I don't know, like the one we had with Bun. Remember that, Marty?
Yeah.
I was tripping out about like this term. I was like, what's long potted or short potted or over potted? I don't know. But like, I think short potting is a great term. And I was really happy to read that on the blog. And then
I figured
electrical
stand-up
connectors
came out of that.
So like this blog is just full of great, useful information that can kind of, you learn quite a bit, especially about that the static in the grinders. We don't have to go into any of these details, but I would like to say, let's get back to this authorized SCA trainer. So how does one really get into learning how to become a coffee technician? And what kind of avenues or access is there now in the Coffee Technicians Guild? And and then what role does this have to do in that pathway for someone who wants to become a technician, right? I think we could probably start with, does it pay better than being a barista? I would say that I feel that the work that I've done, in my heart, I feel like that it's a valuable experience, regardless of the finances, to do coffee technical work and to help people out of rough spots. But on the flip side, is it something that people should get into? And if you're interested in it, how do you take that path, Hylan? Where do you start?
Well, yeah, Hylan,
Marty?
John just put out a whole bunch of the questions there. Which ones do you want to attack?
Let's start. Let's tag team, Marty, because
Okay.
you've been here.
And my beer's done, so you go ahead and chat.
So on your question, can you make more money? My immediate answer was, it depends how good of a barista you are. Because when I was a barista,
True.
I made a living because if your tips was a big part of our income. So this is a metamorphosis. When me and Marty were first on the board, me, Marty, Don Berquist, and a load of people wrote all this program up. We could never get it off the ground. And then that's where it became, with Mr. Ben Helt, let's make an AST program for it and get certification. Because it was always the goal of the initial board that you have an actual certification that you can do this. So there's actual meaning. I mean, you can get trained for anybody. I could call Marty and say, I'm a good tech, I know what to do. Chances of him helping me or going to Workman are probably pretty good. But this gives you someone to say, I want to become a tech. There's a place I can call to say, I need a trainer and learn how to become a tech. It's built off the same theory as the AST program for becoming a barista or a roaster. And
Marty,
it gives you plenty of money, plenty of time, plenty to learn.
Marty, can I ask you, like, could you go to a community college or a university to learn how to be a good coffee technician at this
You're
time?
not going to, no,
No.
it's not available. You can go and get skills and competencies taught to you that overlap, because a valve is a valve and electricity flows the same through a coffee brewer as it does any other device. But to be specific, no, there's nothing out there. And that's what we wanted to achieve as a byproduct of the guild. And we're real excited about 2021. And we're going to add that to our curriculum that we're already teaching. But 2021 is a year that the Tech Guild is actually going to have some certified classes. They're going to focus on hydraulic, electrical, water treatment, and preventive maintenance. Those were the four main things that we felt that was a good launch.
Yeah, because I've met a lot of I've done a lot of calls, a lot of assistance to coffee shops in and around Lincoln and around the state that says, yeah, our local plumber, electrician came along and they kind of fixed it, but they didn't really understand what was going on. So I was thinking that, I know, Hylan, I think we mentioned like earlier this week, we had a little chat about being a barista kind of first, then using that skill set becomes even more sought after if you get into this, like knowing that background. Is that, what's your take on that?
There's two things, I think, and I'm pretty sure Marty would agree with me on this. I think the best techs I've ever seen are techs who are old baristas, because they really understand the love of coffee. Now, to speak to something you said about my plumber came out and tried to fix it, one of the difference between an espresso, a caffeine tech basically, and the difference between a plumber is trained to do plumbing. An electrician is trained to do an electrician. An espresso tech is trained to understand all three of those things and how they work within a much larger system. Being an espresso tech, you have to really understand a grasp of the larger picture and how the system works, because I'm not plugging something in and changing a plug. I'm plugging something in a hot environment, under water pressure, with something leaking on me. So you really have to understand how that relationship works, because it's risky.
It's a mess.
It's a mess, but it's like, when people go, well, I can go, can I go to City College to do this or go to a college? You can't, because you can't really train. Like with the AST program, we train in theory. So we're going to give you all of this stuff to learn. And then you're going to have to go with the equipment individually, because the difference between a Franke and the difference between a La Marzocco is there's miles apart. So you have to take all that systemic information that you learn and apply it to each machine. Marty, you're on the content creators group, aren't you?
I haven't been active on that. I've been
Okay.
too busy. But we're going to change that. I have worked with some of the content creators on some of that stuff. So
So just that's
totally unfamiliar.
to add to that, John.
Yeah.
All of the content that's being created is all techs. There's nobody that is not a tech who's building this program. So when you see the program, like every single step of the way is looked at by an experienced coffee tech and says,
Yeah.
you're going to learn something or you're not going to learn something.
I have a question
Well,
too.
it's scrutinized amongst a team,
Yeah.
so it isn't someone, hey, I've got this great idea how to present and what competencies we need to do. That does happen. And then it's scrutinized and it's tweaked and it's put down much more factual and then a better package.
And I did have a question, but I'm gonna talk to our producer for the next one.
Hey,
Dietrich, what do you got?
God voice coming in. Dietrich,
Yeah.
you don't see me, but you can hear me. Hylan, for somebody who's a barista, what is the timeline, I guess, once somebody kind of decides to make this jump into becoming a technician and wanting to get involved? How many years are they training for before they're actually out fixing machines, do you think?
Or are they already out fixing machines
yeah.
and they just need to, or they
Well,
just need to get good at it?
Yeah.
I can explain, like when I started as a tech, I did not know what a solenoid was. I could make drinks. I knew some basic stuff. I was a science major, so I had an advantage. Within 3 months, I was out in the field doing PMs. Within 6 months, I was out in the field doing service. It really depends.
Real quick, what are PMs?
Preventative maintenance programs,
Okay, gotcha.
which is kind of like on a guard. Then within 6 months, I was doing service. So I'll give you an example. I had a kid once that applied with me who was really growth oriented, never touched a screwdriver, and we trained him. And within 6 months, he was in the field, and he spent 5 years with me. And this was a kid who didn't know what any of these tools are. So a lot of what you'll learn as a tech is really about your mentor. I mean, there's a lot out there that you can learn, that you can read, you can see, but more of it is about who's going to train you to do it. I had a couple great mentors. I had Tim O'Connor, who used to run the SCA from Pacific Espresso, and I wanted to learn everything. So it depends on how voracious you are about wanting to learn it.
I have a question too about what is the demand in my area, for example. This is kind of unique, but we are kind of an emerging market in the sense of like specialty coffee still in Nebraska. There are people still like popping up, like, buying espresso machines, and there are people to call, but it's not very well known. But is there a demand for this type of work? And is it, do you see that there's a strong need for more technicians, or do you feel that it's saturated in certain areas versus others? And that's a question for the both of you.
Part of the reason, and I'll yield over to Marty, part of the reason we founded the guild was entirely selfish and expand our hiring pool, because you can't hire anybody. You couldn't hire anybody. I mean, for example, I just hired one tech. It's in the middle of COVID when no one's hiring. I interviewed 40 people for that job.
Wow.
So I could have hired 3 or 4 people, but they didn't have the experience. So as far as the future, the way that as we've seen coffee progress over the last 10 years, you can get coffee anywhere now. I mean, me and Marty come from the era where a latte was something you got at some cool corner cafe in 1985 that was playing Duran Duran.
Oh, 1985? Oh, I remember 95. I'm more in the mid 90s.
So
wow, that's like not even almost existence at that point.
I lived in San Francisco in the 80s, and you could get coffee at 10 places. Starbucks wasn't on the street, anything else.
I think it was just Pete's, right? Was Pete's around?
And back in the day, it was Pete's and small Italian places.
Yeah.
So couple that with 25,000 espresso machines sell a year prior to COVID, and we're already starting to see purchases. So people purchasing, and people making their budgets for 2021, and so someone has to work on that stuff. An auto mechanic might be able to, or a plumber might, but you need someone who has expertise. So it's a huge market.
And I think the expertise is really, I think, Marty, like something that you might find to be maybe a lack in maybe this area where I live. I don't know, like as far as people calling for an espresso technician in Lincoln, Nebraska. There's a couple, but
Well,
the
surprisingly not
challenge
too
that
many.
we kind
Marty?
of touched on that a little earlier. The challenge is not finding someone that just can turn wrenches. Um, we've seen that with some of the major drive-through companies thought they could have their in-house tech or the guy that works on all their fryers and HVAC and stuff like that be their tech for the coffee machines. And coffee is a different world. And so the fact that a person or a technician knows his way around the toolbox, that's just the beginning of it. You've got to be able to tweak that around to the specifics of coffee equipment. It's definitely a good start. I would hire a competent heating and air conditioning guy. I would hire a competent anyone that's in the tech world, knowing that I'm going to have to train them, and that's going to shorten up that curve quite a little bit.
So Marty, anybody who went to like, let's say like a community college for electric, you know, and became an electrician, but was also a barista. I mean, they're going to be like on the top of your list, perhaps, right? Like get a little bit of technical background and have the right service, right? You got to be a good person too.
Sure. Well, the
Hold
proof's
on.
in the pudding. You can go to any class, but whether
Yeah.
you absorb that and can apply it, that's a different thing. So
That's true.
but someone that shows the aptitude or at least the willingness to go down that route, that's definitely a plus.
And Marty, and I'd say like one of the biggest attributes that you bring to the table is your kindness and your ability to have empathy and understanding. No, seriously, like you come to the, maybe I haven't seen you. Well, I actually have seen your work, and you enter the building with this calm demeanor, this like, I've got this. This is going to be okay. You're going to be okay. We'll send you the bill later. Don't worry about that. but it's that calm misdemeanor that matters. You can know everything in the world, but if you're not a nice guy, you're not going to get a call back.
Well, I think part of it is I really enjoy what I'm doing. I really enjoy this. So the most broken machine, that's my day. Or a lot of guys will freak out. So that gives me an advantage. Hylan, you were wanting to say something?
Yeah.
Well, to speak to what you were saying, Marty and Jon, is that one of the things about the difference between an espresso tech and like an HVAC tech is that the espresso tech is so much more service oriented, because you really have to understand how to diffuse a bad customer service situation. Because espresso techs aren't like an auto tech where it's like you can sit there and have the lady yell at you in the middle of nowhere.
100%.
You're sitting there and we're sending these guys out of the field with a big target on their head with a pissed off owner saying, fix my machine. It's like, they have to be really good. Like, and I've seen Marty do this. They have to be really good at diffusing somebody and really good at making and saying, I'm actually here to support, I'm not here to make it worse.
Yeah. You can't underestimate.
You got to team up with them. You got to be part of their team.
Yeah, you have to have the skills of a great barista in a sense of like, you have an agitated person with no coffee, that they haven't had, and it's early in the morning and the damn thing won't turn on. And, your barista is there to kind of help you out and having those skills. I mean, Marty, you'd be a fantastic barista too. But anyway, I see that I put this slide up of a secret history of the Coffee Technicians Guild. And I thought that was kind of interesting because I know the lady in the middle pretty well because I'm on the United States chapter. And what role did Mancy play in this? And Mancy is with the SCA and she does a phenomenal job keeping everything together and moving forward. So yeah, what's this about?
Mancy, okay, so the guild was started at a bar at CTEC in 2015 after the SCA. I split a cab with Shad Bays and we talked about it. And then we wrote a proposal to Rick Reinhardt and had some help from my boss. And Rick took it, and then Rick introduced us to Mancy. We actually wouldn't be here. Mancy will tell you this is totally wrong. I don't actually think we would be here if it wasn't for Mancy, because we're techs. What the hell do we know about bylaws and governance and everything else? So she has this quality she guided us through this process that first year. And I remember
she definitely was the bumpers in our road.
Yeah. And like when we were choosing the board, we had to handpick the board. They weren't elected. We were like, oh, well, we threw out about 8,000 people because between me and Shad, we know everybody. And it's like, Marty was like number 3. So it's like, we picked people and she's like, okay.
Marty was number 3, not
was
number 2.
3.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
I didn't
He
know
wasn't
Marty.
in the cab. Is that right?
No,
he
no,
wasn't,
see,
he wasn't
I,
in the cab.
I got first dibs. I didn't know Marty at the time.
Okay.
So, but it was like, she's like, it's not a candy store, you guys. You have to pick out guys that are going to best serve the guild, not guys you want to hire because you think they're great. So then we stepped back and like, okay, let's rethink this. And then that's how we picked our first board. But she went through this process with us, and basically we're here today. A lot of the reason we're here today is because of Monsi's support and helping us out. And she recently changed her position a little bit. She still works with us,
right,
but she no longer works directly with us. So that's kind of like,
well, she works directly with me as a volunteer,
right?
And that's great because we launched the U.S. Had since the SCA kind of formed into a global organization, there was this need for local representation through then building the SCA and or the USA chapter, and she's done a great job with that. But one thing you did mention was that there are a lot of men, and they're like that look like us in this field, and what's going on like how do we engage the younger community to get more involved with the technical aspect and not to be I don't know, it just seems sort of like an interesting demographic that's part of the technicians world right now, and am I overlooking something, or is it just history?
COVID slowed down some stuff.
Yeah, you are and you're not. I have a little thing that I do with about 5 baristas who want to become techs. I mentor them and I give them lessons and I talk to them almost weekly. And I think that early on there was some gatekeeping. And I think and they've actually said this, where it's just like, well, I'm a young tech, I want to get into it. And it's like, and then you get some old guys, and I know definitely not me and Marty are like, they're like, why would I teach you to be a tech? You're going to take business from me. It's just a mentality. And we've struggled. Like, we did a series with called Women in Tech when we first started out, and we found 3 people. It's like, and we've actually taken some criticism for that. And it's like, we want it. We actually really want it.
Well, here's the call out. Let's get people involved.
Yeah, and it's like, but you have to get involved. It's like, we need it. We want to be inclusive. It's like, it's always been on our board agenda since day one, because we know who we are, and we don't necessarily want to be who we are. We want to open ourselves up to everybody. And the Barista Guild and the Roasters Guild is such a fantastically diverse group that is where the Coffee Tech Guild needs to head, is that kind of diversity.
Right. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make, is like, how can we, effectively get there? And I think it's just, announcing that, everybody is welcome. This is a very inclusive guild, and there's not 1 second, or there's no way anybody would not be welcome here.
I actually have a partial
by
answer
anybody,
to that. Yeah,
including myself. Like, I'm glad. Thank you for welcoming me to this conversation too.
It falls to us. It falls to me and Marty, and we do this in the current version of the guild, and we've done this quite a bit, where we have to reach out to these groups and make them feel welcome. We have to reach out to them and say, look, it's great that you're a barista, but you have a future in coffee that's beyond being a barista. It's great that you're a manager or a roaster, but there's a future beyond that. So let us show you what that is.
And I remember, in the past, seeing like, the position and placement of who I am and where I'm at in the world. I have seen in the past a lot of sexual discrimination when it comes to a wrench. It's like, that's not, you don't want to do, like, and that's the attitude that we got to like stop. Be like, yeah, take it up, do it. If you want to do it.
There's an interview with there's an interview with Sadie Heim from Starbucks, because I do 95% of the interviews for our blog. And she brings up a really valid point. And it's just like, she brought up an interesting point. And she was like, I was just scared to do it because that's what I thought they were going to say.
Right.
She's like, and when I got in and I said, hey, I want to learn this, they were super cool about it. So it's like, I think part of it is on our end, we need to respect that and say, let's give you a shot. On the other end, it's like, be brave and say, I want to do this. I want to get in there. I want to learn this. Show me how.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if there are any other parting words, that takes us to 8 o'clock. So we can go to the after hours party, and nobody except for the 4 of us are invited.
No,
And I
because
don't think anybody,
you'll record it. So
and I
no.
don't think anybody really would want to go, but I
Just-
guess anybody could, welcome to come.
if you want to get involved,
Yeah.
get involved. Be brave. Be courageous, and say, I want to learn how to be a tech. And Marty knows my email's everywhere, and you can contact me almost anywhere. If you want to contact me or contact the guild, we want you. We want to help you. We want to teach you how to be a tech. My email, the best email to get me at is hylanjoseph@protonmail.com.
And my name is John Ferguson, and I am at coffeetechcentral@gmail.com. And Marty, what do you got for a contact?
Oh, heck. Let's go with my direct one is marty@servicecallkc.com.
And just a quick note, like keep your eyes out for, was it January of 2021? Some more information about the AST. And by the way, we did not mention, and I wanted to mention that the two of you are the only two that are like AST certified for coffee technicians at this point. Is that right? Or did I just made that up?
There's, I think there's 14 now, Marty.
Well, there's only two of you.
No,
There's just
no,
the two of you.
there's only me that has finished it, and you're in the middle of it. And I got to ask you, if we've got a little bit of time, I think it was yesterday that you turned in your 5-minute video. How was that?
How do you know about that? Okay.
He's the one that edits them, right? Are you the one that like edited down?
How did you find out about that?
Hey, here's and full disclosure, I've not seen it. I don't know anything about it other than the due date was yesterday. But
Okay.
personally, because I went through that, I had to do my 5-minute video on current.
Right. I watched your video about 30 times.
And so tell us real quick what yours was, and start to finish, what was your summary? What'd you learn about, what'd you learn from that process? To peek inside the AST training.
The AST training, I mean, we should probably talk about what it takes to actually get accepted to the AST training for a tech, but mine was Ohm's law. So
Okay.
what I did with Ohm's law I teach quite a bit. What I did with Ohm's law was I went through and I explained what Ohm's law is, and I simplified it. Then I explained the formula. Then I used an example of volt, an example of current, and an example of resistance. And then I put it all together to the pyramid, the Ohm's pyramid. Then I gave we only have 5 minutes, so you could talk about Ohm's law for a little while. So then I put it all together in a pyramid and then showed how to do calculations and then closed it. So I'm a very shy person. So even speaking to you guys is difficult, even on video. So I think I went through 15 iterations before I felt like I had it, and I had it all set up because I did it as online. But it's hard because you're communicating something that's incredibly important. And at the same time, you want them to remember what you're communicating on. So you want them to walk away.
Wait, what are these 5-minute videos you're talking about? And can I have access to them?
No.
Please, can I show them on the show next week, Marty? I need your.
I'll make mine available to you.
And that way we
John,
can kind of be like, hey,
And it's really cool. And it's not so much what you end up with, but it's how you boiled it down to that, because there's a lot of goals that need to be met. And you have to look at what you're teaching fundamentally to be able to squeeze it in. And Hylan, I'll tell you, I wrote my script. I sat down and I figured these are all the bullet points I want to make with the stories and the illustrations. And so I said, I'm not going to watch the clock. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to see how far off 5 minutes I am. I did it. And I'm pulling this off my head. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think I was just a shy over 27 minutes.
I got my first one. I actually did an element test where you test an element like just as a test. So my first one was about 18 minutes, and then there was a 5-page element test handout. Then I would turn it in as my draft, and then I get a text from Ben. Hey, Hylan, do you have a minute to talk? I'm like, oh crap. So now I
Aren't
got
they
to
supposed
go-
to be 5 minutes?
Yeah, man.
And you're making these half-hour videos?
You start. That's how you start because you're taking.
Oh, and then Ben's like, "Hey, I don't have this much time."
Ben's
or
like,
what?
Well, Ben's like, well, we're only allowed to do 5 minutes. That's the point, and
Right.
he's right. And it's like, and a good lesson. I don't know if you got this from it, Marty. Was like, you just want to give them exactly what's on the outline and don't overdo it because if we don't know, we're not given the book. We don't. So you're given a little square this big, says this is what you're teaching. You don't know what's come before. You don't know what's come after. So you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm going to give Ohm's law. Well, I got to talk about elements. I got to talk about solenoids. I got to talk about the whole history. And it's like, and then Ben's like, no. You just have to talk about Ohm's law.
Hey, we're gonna take this to the after-hour discussion because I think people might be like losing us right now. But it's 8:08 at night Central
Well, it's
Standard
been
Time.
great.
And I can't thank you enough, Hylan, for coming on and chatting with us. And Marty, same to you. As I'll see you next week. I'll have gone to Austin. Do you want anything from Austin, or do you want anything on my way down? Do you want an espresso machine? I can deliver it to you. We can talk about that later. So
Bring me some Cuvée cold brew.
okay, I can do that. All right, Hylan, thank you so much for joining
Sure.
us. I appreciate it. I think that's our show. Bye, y'all.
Thanks again for joining us at Coffee Tech Talk with Jon and Marty. If you guys enjoyed the show, go ahead and like and definitely toss a subscribe onto that if you want to be notified when we go live as well. Just hit that notification bell and you'll know every single time Jon and Marty go live with a guest. Again, thanks for watching the show and we'll see you later.